you work hard to earn money, and you intend to invest somehow, some way in our motherlands. And so our role is to make sure that those investments are protected and that your hard-earned money and investments are also now subject to scams by con artists. And we see them every day. And Sonny, my superior here, will attest to the fact that it does happen. Con artists are always on the move trying to scam you with your hard-earned money. But before then, I'll continue, let me issue a disclaimer. The disclaimer simply is I'm authorized, I'm allowed, instructed to do that. That if you rely on any advice or rely on my speech today to make any investment and you blow up that money, please, I am not responsible. So that is the, and so raising capital successfully is a very subjective. How do you define success? I'm not at liberty to discuss what success is. And so we're going to try and give you as much information as possible, and then you would have to make an informed decision. But it can't get any better than this, that you will have a lawyer representing issuers of securities, and then financial economists right there in Ethiopia knows the Ethiopian market, and then a regulator who also look at what the attorney presents and to determine whether or not we should allow that security to go forward. So you can't get any better than that. But I also will mention that in the grand scheme of things, I am just a peon. We know who a peon is. A peon is a person who looks after the master's work when the master is away. Okay, so it is getting to the end of the summer period, and so my masters are away in other places enjoying life. And so I was called to step in and to help as much as possible. And so on short notice, I decided to put this in together. So it is not professionally made. But I thought the subject was so broad that we should perhaps group them into for 3 main phases, and my co-presenter has already mentioned some of the issues, and so I'm going to mention some of them briefly and elaborate on them briefly if need be. Okay, so there are alternative sources of raising capital here in the United States, and to each and every source of capital raising, there is a law that governs that capital raising activity. In other words, either security will be deemed a public offering or a privately placed offering, depends on the law governing that particular security. He mentioned Rule 506 Reg D. Those all stem from the 1933 Act, which allows individuals, private offerers to raise capital without going through the rigmarole of registration, and it is a very tedious task. It is a very tedious task, very difficult process. And I would tell you 2 things in case I rumble and I forgot what I have to say. I wanted to leave this room with 3 main, something that should stick in your mind. That a security should either be registered, exempted, or it is illegal. Okay? It should be either what? Registered, exempted, or it is what? Illegal. Anything in absence of registration or exemption is an illegal security. Okay? And the law, the Congress had done so much to ensure that there are laws in place to making sure that you go through the process, and when you have gone through the process, your security will be deemed illegal. And the aim of it is to ensure that your hard-earned currency, your hard-earned dollar, will not go to waste, and then scam will not fall prey to the con artists. Okay. So My bureau, the Securities Bureau, is an agency of the district government, one that oversees the issuance of securities here within the District of Columbia. We work in coordination with the SEC and the 50 states to make sure that certain securities that are not preempted by federal law is also what registered with us. And I can go into the details of preemption, but simply, Congress enacted a law in 1996 which forbade the states from regulating or scrutinizing the prospectuses issued by issuers of securities. And so in many securities, such as the security issued by IBM and Time Warner and the rest, will not go through state scrutiny, but it goes through the SEC and then it goes into public. Okay, so we are preempted. And so there are some securities, some exemptions that are transactional and others that are not. And so where a security is not preempted, then we'll have regulatory authority over it. But that does not preclude us, and Sonny is an expert in that, in coming after you. And recently, she went after an individual from Ethiopia who was raising capital to embark upon a construction project in Ethiopia. And I don't know how Sonny got to know it, but eventually Sonny got to know it. And before the individual knew it, Sonny had contacted the Ethiopian embassy to find out who this individual is, only to find out that it was a con artist. He had just passed Series 6, able to, Series 7 and others, able to sell securities, but he represented himself as having had about, 10 years, 12 years experience, had worked at Wall Street and had raised so much capital for entrepreneurial endeavors in Ethiopia. And so the land was non-existent. He had not acquired the land yet, but he misrepresented that he had already acquired the land. And so these are some of the work that we do here. So we work two hard. One that encourages capital formation here in the District of Columbia, but we also make sure that investors do not fall prey to these con artists. We also make sure that you are not duped by Ponzi schemes. And you know what a Ponzi scheme is? He takes your money and then turn around and give you your money in the future. You know? So he takes new money and then gives the money to old people. And so we have seen that also. So our work here is to prevent that from happening. Okay, so there are several laws that govern the raising of capital. The 33 Act, the 34 Act, the Investment Company Act of 1940, Investment Advisors Act of 1940, and then so there are any number of laws that govern the raising of capital, whether it is debt, equity, or stocks, debt, which is bonds and the rest, and then stocks and notes. And so, so there are rules. And once again, I will mention again, if a stock is not registered, exempted, then it is what? Illegal. Okay. Let me, for the sake of time, run through some of these. And there are times when the prospectus is presented to us, we have to review it and to test it against some two key tests to make sure that that particular business plan satisfies the Howey test or the family resemblance test. And the Howey test simply says when there was an investment of money and there was the investment of money was going to a common enterprise, and that there was profit expectation when you decided to invest in that particular entity. And then the work will not be done by you, the investor, but somebody else who will be doing the will be doing the work on your behalf, and you will be receiving some kind of return. And then there is also the family resemblance test, which look into whether or not this particular entity loan It's not a note, it's not a security. So we say, okay, we compare it to a bank note. If it is not a bank note, then it is, if it is not a bank loan, then it is a security. Okay, so in simply language, if it is not a loan backed by a mortgage or a car note or any other thing, then it is deemed to be a security and therefore must go through what the security laws. I'm going to run through this quickly. How can foreign issuers raise capital here? There are many ways. And in any given week, I'll receive applications from individuals, companies, either domiciled here in the United States, raising capital for entrepreneurial endeavors in other countries, such as Ethiopia, Israel, the European Union, other countries as far as Russia, China. I see that every day. There are also those who are in foreign countries raising capital here. And I think the SEC has a law that provides for such kind of filing. And to file registration statements, the SEC, registration of the filing application of registration statements for security registration is filed with the SEC on Form F1. The F1 will detail, put in detail all the things that you need to have in the prospectus, disclosing the business plan, what the company is, what the company intends to do, the products and services offered by that company, the risk factors, and then also go to the extent of studying the country in which the offering originates, to making sure that either that entity shares are listed on the local stock exchange. Ghana has a stock exchange, and we have heard about other stock exchanges across the globe. So if it is listed there, it makes it easy in the process. But where it is from Ghana, then Ghana stock exchange is not matured enough, and so we're subject to scrutiny. Okay, so just as any other entity required to file periodic reports, foreign entities which raising capital here are also subject to reporting, and that you report that on Form 20F. You report that, disclosing in detail all your financials, to making sure that investors can rely on that to continue to make informed decisions. So, what then is success? And as I said earlier in my introductory statement, that success is subjective, and it depends. I have seen individuals that would support entities in the Middle East with no profit expectation. The aim is to ensure that there was peace between Israel and Palestine. And so it's one of the examples of how I define success. He's ready to waste $1 million just to make sure that there was peace between the two entities.